Yep, I got it on my side.
Okay, great. Well, I haven't. Oh, mine's still setting up. Weird. You've got it and I don't. Okay, well, I got it now.
I
Good.
think participants get it before you. So everybody gets told, hey guys, we're recording, and then it
Oh,
lets
I see. Okay. Well, hello all. Hi from the Great White North. Anyway, who's kicking this one off
you. That is
tonight?
me. That is me if you're ready.
I am. Go for it. And I've got my video up, so I'm good to go.
Fantastic. All right, you guys. So I'm gonna share my screen. Ooh, maybe there it goes. Okay. All right, you guys, welcome to tonight's BDE. We are on episode 379. Before we get into it, I just have a couple announcements. Blair's got two podcasts available on YouTube, Mind Model Mastery Secrets and the Mind Model Minutes podcast. So you can search them by title on YouTube or Blair Dunkley. You should be able to find them that way. Also, Blair is still offering a complimentary profiling session. This is a fantastic opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with Blair where he can help you identify some areas of optimization in your life. Again, we as human beings, we can't see our own blind spots. And so you have an opportunity to meet with Blair, have a discussion, and find out which areas or which things might be keeping you stuck and some things that you might be able to do about it. If you are interested in that, you can go to his LinkedIn profile, Blair Dunkley 1, and then just shoot him a message saying profile, and you guys can connect. He'll shoot you a calendar link. You guys can set up a time to have that conversation. Also, there's a Mind Model Method Coach training on the horizon. Tentative dates right now are March 17th through 20th, March 24th through 27th. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, then just reach out to Blair. You can email him at blair@rewiringthemind.com and again, get more details on what that might look like for you. And with that, I will stop share and let Tim take it from here.
All right, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience. This is the 379th episode. And tonight we're going to be talking about what to do when you want to build whatever it is in your life and how you might build it. So, still part of the series that we've been doing with micro behaviors, how to identify, repeat, and duplicate success, and how to use those micro behaviors to build whatever you're attempting to build. With that, tonight, again, welcome to the 379th episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience, where we discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of the mind models. We are Tim and Becky Graff, your co-hosts and certified mind model mentors, as well as Colin Jewett, who is on and helping us facilitate tonight. The Blair Dunkley Experience is Blair's gift to you as an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe, real-world environment. Mind models have impacted Becky and I's lives. In business, it has made us more effective and confident. In our marriage, it actually helped us resolve an issue that we had, an 8-year issue, actually, within just a couple hours of going through the Mind Model Method Coach training that Becky was talking about a little bit earlier. We have another one of those coming up again. And when Becky and I lost both of our daughters in a tragic accident in 2020, these tools gave us the strength to navigate the PTSD and the grief. It gave us the capacity to recover quicker than we ever thought was possible. My models have increased our effectiveness, our resilience, and our ability to move forward without traditional counseling. We love the mind models, and we look forward to exploring more of the mind models with you guys tonight on the Blair Dunkley Experience. So again, welcome everybody out there on YouTube. We're glad you're here, and if you're watching the recording, we're glad that you're here again. And you can comment, subscribe, and stay connected to these mind models. With that, I'm going to throw it to Blair for a little bit of a presentation.
You betcha. Um, just going to share this. Yeah, you know what? Slight preamble here on what we're doing tonight. We're as Tim suggested, well said, we are building your future is really the focal point of where we are. But so many times we have all these great intentions, but we either don't know how, don't know quite where to go and how to lay it out and do it. But Mind Models helps gives us a pretty clear picture on how to execute, how to dig in, even when you don't think you know how to do it. So I'm just going to optimize this little video here for sharing sound and optimizing video and share my screen and take a listen. It's an overview of what we'll be going through tonight. And there we go.
You ever stop and think about your future? I mean, really think about it. Not as something that just kind of happens to you, but as something you can actually build piece by piece. Well, that's exactly the idea we're diving into today. Treating your future like a project you are in complete control of. So, let's get started. So, let's just jump right in with the biggest question of all. What do you actually want to build? And I'm talking about the big stuff, your career, your relationships, who you are as a person. What does that final, finished structure look like in your mind? To help you answer that, we're going to walk through this 5-step roadmap together. We'll start by defining your blueprint, then we'll talk about why you have to take action. After that, we'll reframe how we think about failure, stock up our mental toolkit, and finally wrap it all up by building with accountability. Okay, first up, defining your blueprint. You know, any huge project, whether it's a skyscraper or a life you love, it has to start with a crystal clear vision of the end result. You've got to know what you're building before you even pick up a hammer. I love this analogy because it's just so perfect. Think about it. Are you just hoping to get in a boat and kind of float around on the ocean of life, hoping you wash up on a nice beach somewhere? Or have you actually picked a destination on the map and set a course? That's the difference a blueprint makes. It's the difference between drifting and sailing. But listen, even the most incredible, detailed blueprint in the world is totally useless if it just sits on your desk collecting dust. You've got to actually start digging and laying that foundation. And that, of course, requires action. And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? It's blunt, but it is 100% true. All your amazing intentions, your brilliant plans, your big dreams, they mean nothing. They don't count until you turn them into actual behavior. Action is literally the bridge from your blueprint to your reality. Now, let's be real. Anytime you start building something new, something important, you're going to hit problems. Things are going to go wrong. It's inevitable. And this is the exact moment where most people just give up. But what if we looked at failure in a totally different way? What if it wasn't a dead end, but just a detour? And this is where the magic happens, right here. See, when we think of failure as a noun, it becomes part of who we are. I am a failure. It feels final, like a permanent state. But when we shift to failing, the verb, it's just something we did, a temporary result. I am failing at this one thing right now. It's not your identity. It's just data. And who's the king of this mindset? Thomas Edison, of course. This guy didn't see 10,000 failures when he was inventing the light bulb. No way. He saw 10,000 pieces of data, 10,000 experiments that told him what not to do. He was treating failing as a totally necessary and valuable part of the building process. So, how do you actually get that Edison-like mindset? Well, you can't build a house without hammers and saws, right? Same thing goes for your future. You can't build it without the right mental tools. And that's where something called mind models comes into play. So what in the world are mind models? Well, the official definition is a collection of tested thought frameworks. But let's break that down. Basically, think of them as proven ways of thinking and acting. They're the specific tools you can pull out of your mental toolkit to solve problems and keep your project moving forward. So what's actually in this toolkit? Well, you've got all sorts of great stuff. There's resilience, which helps you bounce back when you get knocked down. There's the pivot post, which lets you change direction without starting from scratch. And then there's curiosity, which might just be the most powerful tool for learning you'll ever have. But here's the thing. There's one core skill, one really important shift in your thinking that powers all of these other tools. It's the ability to move away from harsh judgment and toward objective evaluation. Judgment sounds like, that was so stupid. Evaluation just asks, okay, what happened and what can I learn? And it's actually super simple to put into practice. It's just a 3-step process. Whenever something happens, you just ask, 1, what worked? 2, what didn't work? And 3, what could I do differently next time? That's it. It takes all the emotion out of it and turns any outcome into a useful lesson. All right, the last piece of the puzzle. You've got your blueprint. You've got your mental tools. But what's the engine that's going to keep this whole project moving forward every single day? That engine is accountability. And a really great way to think about this is the ARA model. So let's break it down. Responsibility is about owning your actions. I'm the one who chose to hit snooze. Authority is remembering you have the power to act. I have the power to set my alarm earlier tomorrow. And accountability is you answering for the final outcome. I am accountable for getting to work on time. See how they all work together? It's like your own personal management system. So this is kind of the moment for a little self-check-in, right? We have to ask ourselves these tough questions. Are we actually being a reliable project manager for our own lives? Because honestly, keeping your word to yourself is maybe the fastest way to build the trust and the momentum you need to succeed. So if you remember one thing, let it be this. Your future is not some destination you just stumble upon. It is a structure that you design and that you build day by day. You are the architect holding the blueprint, and you've got all the tools you need to build it. And that brings us right to the end, to the one question that really matters most. Let's forget about yesterday, forget about tomorrow for just a second. What's one thing, one action, one choice you can make right now? How are you building your future today?
Okay. So, there's a lot of places that I want to start with this one. I had a wonderful call today with a young man, um, and thank you, Mirabai, Cody. So, building your blueprint and building your direction, you do need to know where you're going. Now, do you have everything that you need to have in order to move forward? The answer is yes and no. Okay, it's not completely, absolutely yes, but it's mostly you do, but we don't notice what it is that we actually have. And in a lot of cases, the people around us see us clearer than we see ourselves. And so that's a critical thing to be aware of. And getting feedback from others on how to move forward is a great place to also start. I had a couple conversations with people today, and they were sharing, one of them talked about getting 360-degree feedback, like putting out I think, Colin, you talked about this when we were doing this. Did you want to jump in here and share? Because I got it twice. The same thing was a thing back, I don't know when it was, early 2000s. It was a common email that people would send out collecting information. But anyway, I'll let you do it. I don't need to chop
Sure.
on.
Yeah. At one point, it was probably a decade ago at this point. I was prompted by a friend and I sent out a survey to people who knew me well from different areas of life. So people who knew me from my childhood, family members, people I met in college, people I met at work. And I asked them to identify what my successful behavior patterns were, or what are the things that I do really well without seeming to think about it that come naturally to me. And it was very eye-opening to see the patterns between those responses and get that objective third-party perspective.
What was your biggest takeaway from that? Do you recall?
Yeah, what I ended up doing again with my friend's prompting was like identifying a few different patterns and then naming and labeling those. So this, back then he called them superpowers at the time. We kind of changed the language over time, but so I had my little list of superpowers. I don't remember exactly how I articulated them back then. I had like a little laminated card at one point though, and they've evolved. But like one thing that people said, which I've identified in myself now to be true, is my ability to bring disparate people together, people who may not obviously have anything in common, and bring them into a space where they can really enjoy each other's company and get to know each other. And I did do that, but I wasn't consciously aware of it until I heard that from other people.
Right. I did that as well back in the day. And one of the comments that I got fairly consistently was my ability to listen at depth to what people were saying. And I see Tim and Becky both nodding. I didn't share that with them beforehand. So do you want to jump in and share your?
Well, it's one of the things that I've actually said about Blair since I first met him. I can honestly say that I am amazed at how he's like a sponge is probably the best way I can relate it. Since the day I met the guy, I've been amazed at his ability to deep listen, not just hear the words, but to listen to what they're saying, what they're not saying, and how they're saying it, and then take that information and feed it back to them within moments and tell them all about themselves. Like it's amazed me that deep listening and being able to process quickly. It's something that I personally have, made it a mission to work on myself is really that deep listening skill. It's one thing that Blair does very well.
Thank
It's
you.
mind, I was gonna say it's mind blowing when you're talking to another human being. You kind of have that sense of if they're paying attention or not, or if their mind is like out in left field. You can like feel the energetic drift. Whether you're on Zoom with Blair or you're in person with Blair, you don't feel that way. You feel like you're the only person in his purview at the moment. And there's a lot that goes into being seen and heard and understood because of how he listens. To Tim's point, it's not just the intonation, the flow, and the words, or the content of what you're talking about. It's what's driving this. And
Mhm.
then how might I help this person find more clarity? Another plug for profiling session. He's offering it as a complimentary thing. You want to experience it in action, book on his calendar, reach out on LinkedIn.
You betcha. Um, One of the things that I would say I have worked on um, most of my life since uh, actually since turning 21 and taking coach training when I was 21. And that was the ability to hold another person as important. So the whole construct of importance. And when you take, you're here, but where are you holding the other person as more important or less important than you? But if you actually can get comfortable with your own importance, parking that temporarily and just hold that other person and take your mind and wrap it around their being the most important person in front of you right now. That's what I found is a great beginning spot to pay attention to other people, is when you can literally hold them as important, not more important than you, not less important than you, but you're not focused on you at all. You're just focused on them, knowing that you're important. And that ability to hold yourself as important, simultaneously ignoring yourself and holding them as important, is that magic sauce I find for figuring stuff out. Anyway, I thought I'd just share that.
Well, and I
Any,
do remember, I remember Blair when we went through my model coach. That was one of, I mentioned earlier our 8-year issue. That was part of what we learned when we went through my model coach. One of the aha moments that and awarenesses that we had that we were doing. At least I speak for myself. I was noticing that what was happening with our issue is that I was either, this is what I need, Becky's here and this is what I need, or finding myself falling down to, okay, fine, we'll just do what you want, that kind of thing, instead of actually both of us holding each other in that same space. And that was one of those awarenesses that we had going through my model coach. It was like, okay, if we can hold ourselves here, then we can work together and move forward.
And that
Mhm.
and that process is removing judgment of self,
Yep.
removing judgment of others, and working with the facts.
Yep.
And when you're talking about Blair, the blueprint's facts. This is what I want to see, or this is what I want to build. These are the pieces that I might need. But then we start talking about, okay, we have an idea or a pseudo idea. We've got like a couple steps in what we might do. Then how do we actually start building that new life, or that life the way you want it, moment by moment, step by step?
And everything changes in that moment when you can actually start recognizing the possibility of your future. And a lot of time that is you have no idea where your life is going to go and what life is going to throw at you. But in there, in the video, it talked about resilience briefly. It mentioned being resilient. And when you have the ability to deeply hear somebody else, you have the ability to learn how they think. And when you recognize how they think, and you don't have to agree with it or disagree with it, it just gives you clarity on a possible process. You can either use it or not. It's your choice. It's not a requirement at all. But it gives you, like, I don't know how many times I've learned how to build my future from people that I strongly disagree with because I learn what I don't want in my life. And that is something, wow, that was a great lesson that I just learned because I just learned what I don't want. Now, I don't have to be mad or upset. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'm thankful for that. Um, Sometimes irritated and thankful simultaneously because I don't want that in my life. I want something that I can move forward. And is there a role model? Is there a way of being that enables me to define, to describe what I want more specifically?
And
And
it's interesting.
go ahead.
It's interesting, Blair, as well, that you bring this up because I hear people say a lot, I had a terrible upbringing. My childhood was rough. My parents were XYZ, whatever,
Yep.
and this happened and this happened. And they use it as a crutch for their life now moving forward.
Yep.
I can honestly say that I had a pretty rough upbringing myself. But the cool thing about that is I've learned, unlike, some of my siblings who still use it as a crutch, I've learned that what my parents do or did has no bearing on where I'm going now and how my future, that is up to me and what I want to build. And actually, I'm grateful for that upbringing because I saw exactly what I didn't want in my life. And I
Mhm.
learned and experienced what I didn't want. And so now I know how not to duplicate, how to not repeat that in my own life moving forward. And so it's just interesting how, each person experiences things a little differently. They use it as a crutch or they use it as something that, they go, okay, learning from this and I can pivot and change. So
And there's a key mind model that has been sprinkled in both what
yeah.
Blair has been saying, well, not just one, but some key mind models that have been used as a filtration for both Blair's experience and what Tim just shared. Leslie, what did you hear? May I ask you a question, Leslie? I forgot to ask permission. I assumed. I apologize.
Yes, yes. I'm hearing what's being said and I'm absorbing it. As for putting it to a mind model, I'm sorry. I
May I assist you?
Please.
So, what does that feel like when you're absorbing that information and listening to it? How did it impact you emotionally, let's say?
Um I was very curious
Excellent.
about what was being said. I've been making notes.
Okay, let's
And
park that there for a moment, if you don't mind.
okay,
But you just described both a mind model and a feeling of curious. You felt curious, correct?
yes,
So that mind model there is describing feelings. But that feeling is also a mind model called curiosity. So you
yeah.
got a twofer just out of that one.
Well,
And yeah, well done is right. But on top of that, you named and labeled what it was, curiosity.
Hmm.
Okay. And the more that we become conscious of our ability to name and label what that is, what do you perceive now that I've named and labeled three mind models in terms of what you briefly said? What happens to you? How do you feel? What do you perceive?
Awestruck.
Okay. Awestruck is not a mind model. No, just
No,
kidding.
it is not.
However, it is
It's
a
a
feeling.
condition.
Yes, it is. And is that condition an effective place to be?
Yes, because
Yes,
I'm focusing, I'm paying attention,
exactly. And
and I'm naming and labeling here.
yeah, ta-da!
And that's
Like
one of the
all of a
hardest.
sudden,
That's one
yes,
of the hardest ones I've had to figure out.
there you go. And that naming and labeling is a process of being able to say those things out loud, make them happen, and create that opportunity for yourself to do it. Now, naming and labeling makes it identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable.
Yes.
That's how come I interrupted, because I want you to be able to start locking that into your brain and going, oh, wow, it's pretty powerful when you name and label, isn't it?
It is.
And now you're awestruck. When you name and label that feeling, that emotion, like and describe those feelings of being awestruck, what did you enable yourself to do? Like, how does that impact you emotionally in this case?
Well, I know the word good isn't good enough,
Great.
but I,
So
I'm
let's
elated. Elated.
okay, you feel elated. Another
Elated
great
with
way of
myself.
describing your feeling. Now, when you call state it as elated, does is that is that effective or ineffective for you?
Effective
How do you know?
because of the feeling.
Right,
It's a positive
exactly. Do
feeling.
you notice it's pretty circular?
Yes.
But does it have we created a positive loop?
Yes.
Yeah, we have. And we recognize that we've just done four things now that are effective and moving us forward, correct?
Correct.
Now, funny thing is that sort of what we want in our life, more or less in our
More.
life, more of.
More of this.
So are we not building a pattern, a self-reinforcing pattern of getting effective responses in our life?
Yes.
And are we, by comparison, when we're not getting them, recognizing what not to do more of and what to go back to?
Yes. Agreed.
Great. But if we don't name and label it, it's just random crap. It's stuff that, oh, I felt
It's
good
not.
here. I felt bad here. I felt okay there. I
It's
felt
not
terrible here.
reinforced.
Right. It's not self-reinforcing. But by taking that extra few seconds, it becomes a self-reinforcing process that builds on itself. That's pretty powerful. And what happens here is this thing in the past, is it focusing you in the past? Is it
It's at
focused
present.
in the present? And so you're doing technically another mind model here that is literally getting present with this. So you are in the present. And when you get yourself present, do you actually start feeling more competency, more effectiveness? Like you're okay, I'm just going to give you the mind model because I don't know how to break it down into a question quickly, but risk, trust, and honesty is what I'm trying to get to here. Do you not identify that you have more self-trust?
Yes.
And you know that you're being honest because your feedback to yourself is just purely honest. You're just calling it as you see it, correct?
Correct.
And you're taking the risk to identify all of this stuff. And so you're using those three conditions of risk, trust, and honesty in a balanced, fair self-evaluation process. And do you notice how you're feeling inside right now with this whole thing? Are you noticing that you're just calming down with this whole thing? Is this stressful for you right this second?
No, not at all.
Not at all. It's
Not-
calming.
It's calming, yes.
Yeah, yet it's also confidence building. In fact, I'd argue it's self-confidence building. You get to identify what you're doing on an identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable process. Colin, did you want to jump in here?
Oh no, if I jump in, that'll stop the flow. And now it's stopped. Look at that. I ruined
What are
it.
you aware? Mind model
He
count
said mind model
counter
counter
broke.
is broken. How many were you up to now? Brent, how many did you capture?
Uh-oh.
I lost count. I was writing them down. I'm like, I was writing the process, like, oh, that's great. That's, yeah. And I'm like, oh, there's like four more there as I'm writing down. I'm like, what is? So I'm like, oh, fair and balanced. Well, that's a great one. Getting present. Oh, risk, trust, honesty. Okay.
Yeah.
And then self-confidence. I'm like, oh man, we keep going here. You remember that? Our ask first tell. There's that as well. I
Yep.
mean, that super stack we built like a while back. You remember that? You were going
Yes.
through curiosity, describing feelings, naming, labeling,
Yep.
and then ask first tell, then the self other situations in there. But I was
Yep.
like, oh, that seems very similar to that. Like just
They
going down, really,
are,
just like
like they really are very
yeah,
similar. And the more that we get practice at doing these things and being able to name and label what it is that we're doing, the more effective we become with it, and the more conscious we get to it, the faster we can interrupt our ineffective thinking.
yeah. I was thinking either, when Leslie you asked Leslie his feelings, how does he know that's effective because of the feeling, and the same would go as if it was ineffective. Same
Yes.
thing. Like, oh, how do you know? Well, that's ineffective because the feeling, the same loop you're creating, so you're able to evaluate effective, ineffective, and then
But look at what you just said. You're using your feelings to confirm a conscious cognitive process to figure out its weight, but you're doing it from consciously cognitive processes using the emotions as the tool of evidence for effective and ineffective. Now, most people flip this around and go, I feel good, I feel bad, but they don't attach a cognitive process, they attach judgment to it.
Mhm.
This has got to be one of the best times I've ever described this, to tell you. I'm It's taken me decades to figure this out to this degree of precision, but this is what it comes down to. This is how I listen when I do profiling. I was on a podcast, and the podcaster was asking me how I profile. And by the way, it should be out next Tuesday, which I will then get you guys copies or let you know where it's at or what's going on. But the whole point of this was just thinking about this, how effective mind models are when you use them in an order, in a process to build a future intentionally, rather than just like I almost want to say no knocking exactly intuition, like intuitively, but when you don't do it consciously, you don't make it identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. It becomes haphazard. So what happens when you actually put the cognitive part up front and use the emotion to test the validity of it? How does this feel? It works quite well because you go, oh, that felt like, and you say, I say this, I don't know if you guys do, but I go, that felt really effective. That felt effective. And it's a feeling. And I go, oh, not good, bad, right or wrong, just effective. And then my brain goes, what specifically was effective about that? And that takes me out of the emotion and back into the cognitive process, whatever that was. Can I name and label that? Because I just want to do more of that.
So make it external from that, making it from
Bingo.
internal to external.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's spot on. And like this is the whole thing here. We're constantly going through this ebb and flow of going like external to internal to external to internal, and we're ebbing and flowing. But when we use judgment, we go from internal to a different internal, like from a judgment statement of I really messed up here to I feel terrible about that. Boy, I'm not very smart about that. It's not very intelligent. And all of these judgment things is from one internal state to another. But if we stop for 2 seconds and start looking at that external, what is externally verifiable, and test the validity of its effectiveness with our internal state with external proof, all of a sudden, that's a powerful winning combination.
Well, I was going to say, and I imagine, when we talk about Thomas Edison, I imagine this is the process that was going on for him.
Yeah.
He was, a massive amount of curiosity, for one, and the constant internal to external of him going through the process. Okay, this particular piece didn't work, but I found this, or this is working. So if I tweak this, and on and on, and that ebb and flow of what's working, what's not working, and just that constant curiosity and drive forward instead of just, to hell with this. I've taken way too much time, and gone into that place. It was more of this internal, external.
One of the
I got
things that
something. Oh, Colin, go ahead.
okay,
You
go
got
ahead.
something.
Well, actually, no, I'm going to jump in here. I read something decades ago about Edison, and it was somebody that knew him and was sort of interviewing him. And he said, this is where that 10,000 or whatever. He said, when you study what doesn't work, how much of that worked? Because he would literally, Edison would have his cohorts or somebody their time, just how long did that filament last and under what conditions? And he very quickly recognized that everything lasted somewhat longer when you put it in a vacuum, when you got rid of oxygen. And then he had a faster way of being able to do it because sometimes the bulbs broke because they vacuum made the bulb a vacuum, and the glass was imperfect, and just broke. Well, what if you flooded it with nitrogen gas? So putting in a inert gas was a better way of expelling the oxygen than creating a vacuum to get rid of the oxygen. And they found that to be effective. So all of these things were minor but significant things that they learned how to manufacture the light bulb, of what to do. So the light bulb was less fragile and more stable. And then all the other things that they would test, of how do we create enough tests of different things. And a thread, a cotton thread in a vacuum, lasted longer and burnt brighter once the cotton had already partially burnt. And one of those cotton ones that they tested stayed very long because it was a cotton piece of cotton that turned to carbon. And they knew that you could take a lamp with a cotton wick that was basically cotton fabric, light that on fire, and have the carbon that would come out of the cotton, and that would burn bright for a very long time and could be relit, so long as you didn't damage the structure of the carbon itself. That was some of the breakthroughs. Then what else can we take a look at doing? How else can we conduct this electricity, lighting it up, keeping resistance, and keeping that in play? So those were all the things that he evaluated, even when things did not work. Parts of it worked. And that discipline to notice all of it was a significant inspiration for me, of paying attention to all of those details, even when overall the thing failed. But did it all fail at the same time? And that's where people say, you listen deeply. I listen deeply to problems, because every position of everybody's problem is not the same, even though they could say, well, I have a marital problem. Well, all these marital problems, you could call them the same, but they're not. Each one is unique. Okay, sorry. Colin, then Brent.
Yeah, speaking of light bulbs, light bulb moment for me early on working with you, Blair, was the realization of how many behaviors uh, I have to evaluate. And this ties into the the whole point of the series, the micro behavior idea.
Yes.
And it's been funny to me now because I've gotten used to it, but I've introduced other people to the idea of evaluation, and I'll share it with them, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, I'll try that out," and then I'll speak to them a week later or something, be like, "Hey, how's that been going? Has that worked for you?" And they're like, "Yeah, I've only seen like a couple opportunities to evaluate, but I've tried to do that." I'm like, "Couple opportunities? You've had a couple opportunities in the last second of talking." It's like they're happening instantaneously all the time. And that for me was a huge aha moment of that, like arising to awareness of, oh, like right now as I'm talking, okay, there's all these little micro behaviors happening, and I'm getting this feedback constantly. Like right now I'm getting this feeling feedback like we're talking about, which is helping me evaluate what I'm doing right now. And I'm also getting feedback from you nodding and doing that, and I'm getting feedback from Brent and other people. Like there's so much happening right here right now, but if you're not aware of it and you don't name and label it, like you said, you're just in the dark. It's just,
It just goes right
oh yeah,
over your head.
maybe I'll find something to evaluate at some point.
Yeah.
This is I have to so I was jokingly I was teasing Mirabai the other day when we got together, and I said I was talking about the Matrix and asking her if she really wanted to be woke up in the real, if or if you wanted to stay in bliss of ignorance. And it's kind of what Colin's talking about. Once you get these skills, and suddenly they're all over, and they're right there, they're happening, and you start to notice these things, some things that you didn't notice before. So
Mhm.
And life becomes incredibly rich and dense, where you were noticing nothing before. Now it's packed full of information. And you initially, when I was learning this stuff and training myself to notice it, it became almost overwhelming. And that's where I had to sort of learn how to dial it back down. But in that process of learning how to dial things back down and naming and labeling, it gave me a huge tool called profiling. And that's where I started to notice the patterns of consistency amongst people. And so today I had two opportunities to do brief profile, well, three technically, three, but with two absolute strangers. So the person that I was being interviewed for on the podcast, and her mind was blown because I profiled her, and she was going, but I didn't share that much about myself. And how do you know about the people that I'm working with, and that I have a couple of people over here that I have problems with, and all these rest are there? And I start breaking it down and describing to her how her face changed, how her tone changed, and how when I said, what do you do to have fun? And she looked like this. And like, just like all of a sudden, this surprise, this shock hit her face. And she said, playing with my son. I have a ton of fun. Like, I can't find fun. I can't find fun. Bang, I found fun. Like, just like it was a revelation to her practically. It was bizarre. Anyway, so that was incredibly useful. And just understanding that ability to focus in on that gave her a sense of resilience. So she bounced back from difficulty with people at work or whatever's going on there. And the resilience, the how to be more resilient, just blew her mind. Anyway, do you want to, Brent, you're up.
Yeah. So back to the process of building your future. So identifying the process, I just wanted to point out is that maybe, where to start. Like, do we start as like from the zero beginning? Like, I don't know where to start, so I just got to learn the mind models and the process, do all the stuff first, or you use these as to identify your current process and evaluate that, and then move forward to build an effective process. So to me, it seems more effective to start to learn the skills and behaviors to identify what you're doing now, what the process or lack of a process you have, what is effective, ineffective, to then redirect and identify and build that effective process rather than starting for like, hey, I'm not even going to do anything until I learn these skills and then start. Like that type of behavior, like, hey, I need to identify where I'm going, but I don't really have that toolkit yet. So I'm going to learn those tools, those skills, and then I'm going to do it. It's not even pay attention or do it as you go along as you're learning those skills, but then identify what you're doing currently, and rather than just like, hey, I won't do anything until I learn these specific skills before I start learning these.
So Colin or Becky have to jump in here because you guys were both nodding your heads quite
Yeah,
vigorously.
I'll jump out. I'll jump in, and then Becky,
Okay.
if you want to jump in too. So I'll speak to this. I've been a learning coach for quite a while, for several years now. I've worked with people all over the place, mostly adults, and this exact pattern that you're talking about, I saw emerge a lot, and it was usually named and labeled as perfectionism. And sure, that works. But it goes back into how success is defined. We talked about this recently,
Last show.
and
Yeah.
okay, yeah, perfect. And so when people define success as like achieving some sort of goal, uh, oftentimes that prevents them from even starting because they're like, well, I can't achieve that right here, right now. There's a long path to it. And if I take any steps, I might mess up. And so rather than messing up, I'll just not do anything. I'll just, what they'll do is I'll research or they'll do all this stuff in their head, like the mental effort. Like I'll work myself up to it. I'll make sure I've got everything perfect. And then once I know that I can basically just magically achieve that thing, then I'll do it. But it goes back to this, if you don't do it, it doesn't count. And if you don't do anything, then you've got nothing to test. You have nothing to evaluate until you've taken a step. It's better to take a step and step in a bear trap and then be like, oh, that didn't work. Like, what might I do differently than just stand there and do nothing? You can't evaluate when you have like no action to test to evaluate. So yeah, take step somewhere, step in a bear trap if that's what it takes, but don't just stand there.
And this ties back to at the beginning, Blair, your video, the blueprint, and then identifying like the priorities. If you have clarity on what steps might be there, then you have something to work with to be able to chunk it down even more if you need to a place where you can take ownership and do the thing. So a lot of times that getting ready to get ready, or procrastination, self-sabotage, all of those kinds of behaviors fall in suit with what we're talking about as we want this thing and we've named and labeled it as success versus identifying the process of success. Meaning, if you've done something to your point, bear trap, let's not do that. Missed a toe, had some, issues with that, let's fix that. But really, when we're able to name and label, my brain went sideways, Blair, a little bit when you're talking about internal and external, naming and labeling. I had your grid in my head about behavior, right? All of that kind of stuff, line of consciousness. I have a graphic for you. I'll share it later. Um, because it can seem so complex, but that's not a negative thing. It means that there's pieces we can work on, which means there's innovation. Thomas Edison, he had pieces that he tested and then he evaluated and then he tested again and evaluated. I would imagine that if he wasn't as resilient, he would have given up and he would have had the fixed mindset of failure didn't work. I've tested it how many times and it's still not working. Reasonable frustration. But instead, he was able to engender curiosity and start to work through it.
Mhm.
So, a lot of times when we're talking about building our path, right, building our future, it's are we clear on what we want to build? Enough. And if not, what resources might we tap, not to analysis or paralysis, but to get context sufficiently to take a step or test something?
Exactly. It's that whole thing where we need to be effectively resilient is very important, but understanding ourselves to the point of figuring out how else may I be with this? And just because I'm not the same as everybody else, does that mean that what I'm doing is wrong or ineffective, or is it just different?
You know,
And
Blair, that
that's
actually brings, I
what,
was going to say, do you mind if I add something here? This
sure.
is Mirabai, you and I were having this conversation earlier today. People want to be told what to do, but they hate it. And when they get told what to do, they feel great. They got a dopamine hit. Yes, I have certainty this is the way. And then they start doing it, and there's something misaligned. To your point, Blair, it's
Yes.
not it's not necessarily their piece of it, and so it doesn't necessarily fuel them forward. Versus getting curious and asking, okay, what's the outcome you're going for? Knowing what you know about this, or knowing what you now know, if you've got information, what might you test? What might you do? Instead of just being like, you need to do it this way. Because if it doesn't work for them in their model of the world, it likely isn't going to stick or prove to be effective. Blair's way is not my way. Tim and I both know the mind models, and 99% of the time, our brains are not operating in the same capacity and using the same mind models. and yet we can still both be effective with each other and other people. Does it make Tim right and me wrong? Absolutely not. It means that our processes are different.
Exactly. And is that reasonable? And the short answer is absolutely it is. So, that becomes a critical factor in how you think and feel and be with this whole thing. So, what I'm going to do right now is take a minute 32 seconds and share a video I did years ago. Hopefully you don't mind this, but it's just called Be Different. And I thought this might be an appropriate place to share.
Is this the one you shared from stage, Blair?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so you guys, just a little bit of background here. This is when we saw Blair for the very first time in Las Vegas at an event. He shared this video, and this is one of those things that I went, oh my gosh, it was mind blowing. So this is cool. I haven't seen this in years.
Thank you, Blair. Nice treat.
You're welcome. Okay, here we go. And we'll just play this.
Be different. Challenge the status quo. Question. Be the curious one. Be the crazy one. Outrageous. The misfit. The rebel. The one that moves in a different direction. Love what you do. Be passionate. Be the one who sees things differently. Ask the hard questions, the difficult questions, the outrageous questions. You don't settle. You break the chains, the rules, and the status quo. You follow your heart, your dreams, your desires, and discover your destiny. You may be disagreed with, or quoted, vilified, or glorified, but the only thing you won't be is ignored. You are the difference because you change things. You push yourself and the world forward. Some may see you as the different one. We see the risk taker, problem solver, the entrepreneur, the innovator. Because the people who are different enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. So, be different. The world needs you.
Okay. Colin, did I ever show that to you?
No, I haven't seen that before.
Cool. Well, there you go. Anyway, so I did that quite a few years ago, but it is even more relevant today, I believe, than it was when I first created it. By the way, I wrote that. It's a riff off of a commercial an Apple commercial. Think Different, but it's quite different. Like it's got the same rhyme, the beat to it and everything else. And I found this guy who got into the script and just delivered a great voiceover for me. But yeah, I was able to do that myself, pull it all together, had 3 or 4 people from Fiverr edit it, and then finally I had to re-edit it because they were all putting in bits and pieces. They got me the clips, but the flow wasn't where it needed to be, and I rejigged the flow. It took me a long time to pull it off, but I did it, and I haul it out from time to time. And tonight I thought it was a great time to pull it out, dust it off, and show you guys. Because the only way that we're going to build our future is if we allow ourselves to be different, to think different, to explore these behaviors that we have. And we have to identify what they are to make our success identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. Oh, that one. Yes, I was wondering if what popped up with that. Do you want to share that one, Becky? Or do you
If
want me to talk to it?
well, if you so I modified this one, Blair. This is a new one. It's a combination with some other things on it.
Okay, well,
Looks
then you
similar.
share.
My only concern is we've got 25 minutes, so I want to make sure we have time for wrap up.
I
So
think we might need to,
save it.
yeah.
If you guys want to snag it from the chat, you can, and then we'll talk to it on a different one. But
Well,
this,
all of the things are, this is cleaned up, but all of the things are exactly where I put them
yeah,
initially.
it's yep.
You put external and internal, that's there too. Everything's correct.
I
I
think
don't,
I figured it was we just didn't have a clean one in our slide with the cognitive line of
oh, I
concept
see. Yes. No, I
things.
drop by hand and it's messy as hell. Okay, so well done. Okay, so question. How is tonight going for you guys? Is this Has this been effective for you? And if you would like more of this, let us know. We were thinking when we put this one together that this might be a um a 2 week session just on this one because there's a lot on building your future. There's a lot to it. So I don't know if you guys want more or not. Let me know. In the comments, put a 1 if you want more and put a 2 if this is good enough. More. Okay. Brent, more, less, 1 more. Okay, so we'll definitely be doing more. So that's where that goes. So Becky, I guess who's ever wrapping up? Who's wrapping up?
So we're gonna hand it off to Colin for wrap up.
Okay, great.
Time to wrap. All right, cool.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. Who's going to go first tonight? Brent, would you like to go first tonight? The wrap up?
Yes, I'll go. So I, man, this was a great one tonight. Starting as building a future, but as the foundation to get the information and the examples and uh, the details with Leslie and how that broke down. That was really interesting tonight. To see that as you're going through, pointing out all the mind models as he's walking through, as you're going through it. So that was really interesting to see. And it was just too fast to keep track of how many, which ones were pointed out. So that was a great piece.
I just want to point, I
Yeah.
did that intentionally, Brent, because, well, first of all, I was sort of set up for that thing. I did that with a degree of intention, but I wanted to point out how dense mind models are, how much is available, how much information is available in seconds worth of
Mhm.
information. If you know what you're looking for, there's so much there. Anyway,
Yeah, it
I'll
shows
shut
that
up.
they're used like they're not just like, oh, I just use one at a time. No, it's used like all of them. There's many multiples at the in the moment. Really quick succession of the process you're going through, your thoughts, what you're saying, you're evaluating. So you're going through that, and it's all like Colin was saying, if micro behaviors, identify those and evaluation. You're going like all little pieces going through very quickly multiple things. So just being able to point that out and identify it and bring it out to be aware of that. That was great too. It's a reminder of that. Yeah, I also enjoy like the question on the process of starting the process of Colin and Becky and what that looks like. Do you start? Do you wait? And those differences. Being perfectionists and all this process. Are you waiting to get started and it's starting from judgment and pausing that, or are you going and then evaluating and building that toolkit as long as you get going along that process and building that and using those and evaluating and then making your adjustments, but identifying your basis where you want to go so you have a direction clearly where you want to go. So yeah, I give it tonight a 9 for me.
Thanks, Brent. Leslie, would you like to jump in for the wrap up tonight?
Certainly, thank you. Definitely a 10 for me tonight. working through what Blair was leading me through was intriguing and pointing out where the mind models were fitting in. Amazing, amazing, because I'm doing it, but not realizing it. And having it pointed out just emphasizes it more and is very beneficial for repeatable, duplicatable, and continuing. Becky, there was one part that, before I admitted to being awestruck, you came up with a statement. And I only got the first word down because I was listening and not writing and thinking about what you were saying. And it was right after Blair was talking about how do you hold others, level of importance. And all I got to write down was removing. And it was a phrase that you used.
Removing judgment from myself and others.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So 10.5, because now I've got that piece of information.
You know what? And when she said that, it went to something else. But I said to myself, well, that's that mind model of acceptance. When you remove that judgment from self and others, all that's left is acceptance. And
Yes,
that's so powerful in and of itself.
it is. Thank you. A wonderful evening. Looking forward to part 2.
Thank you, Leslie. Mirabai, would you like to participate in the wrap up, sharing what was valuable from tonight and 1 through 10 on the value for you?
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna say I'm gonna give it a 10 because every time I come, I comprehend a little bit more, and I've been saying 10 before, so it wouldn't be fair for me to have a lower number tonight because now I actually know kind of a little bit what you're talking about some of the time. So that makes me feel good. One thing that I was thinking when Leslie was talking is not only is there the component of do I start I'm paraphrasing, probably doing a bad job. Do I start putting into action now before I've grasped and comprehended the whole kit and caboodle? Or do I wait until I feel like I've mastered it? As a couple people spoke to tonight, I'm also thinking about the distinction between do I start attempting to use this in my interactions with other people first, or do I fix myself first? Do I fix my my rambling and my disjointed thoughts and my defensiveness and all that kind of stuff? Like, let me just get to be the perfect person I want to be first, and then I will feel worthy and capable to then help other people to become who they want to be. And of course, as I'm saying it, that sounds silly, but it is a thought that ran through my mind that in the old days, 3 weeks ago, before I knew about Blair, I would have said, well, let me just go to get a degree in this thing and learn the whole thing, memorize all the books, and then I'll feel confident to start bringing it into, my interactions with people and my coaching. And I'm thinking, no, I can't do that now because now I know better.
Well said.
Well, and a quick question. So, what's the answer?
Well, the answer is now that I have awareness of the mind models and I'm accidentally catching myself in ineffective communication patterns and ineffective thoughts, I can't help but correct it right in that moment because this foundation of logic has now been laid, and it would be like not picking up the nail from the floor before I step down with my bare feet. I mean, everything in me is saying, no, hold on, let's put this together first before you then move forward, or you're going to hurt yourself.
And knowing full well that you're going to hurt yourself anyway, but keep moving forward and pick up as much as you can in advance.
Yeah.
But you can't, this is life. Okay, this is not perfection. This is just let's move forward and see what I can do. We're gotta build. I used to have a video, which I wish I had this one. I might have it somewhere. I don't know if it's on any of these, but I've used that in a few talks. And there was a Super Bowl ad, and it was about this company building an airplane and having workers building an airplane in the sky as it's flying, literally. And as they put it all together, before it's going in for a landing, all the workers are bailing off the airplane because they were working on it, but they don't need to be there. And they all parachute off while the plane safely lands. So I mean, it's about building it in the sky as it's actually flying. And, that's what life is. We build ourselves. If the metaphor of the plane is us, we're building ourselves for entire life and constantly tweaking, editing, changing, reinventing ourselves all the time as we are flying through life. And nothing is static, as that's Becky's quote. Nothing is static. It's always changing. So let's not try to be perfect. Let's try to just live as effectively as we can and catch as many of our faux pas as quickly as possible and do a little bit of what I figured out how to do. And that was to make a ton of mistakes, but fix them so fast that they don't even look like a mistake.
Thank you, Mirabai and Blair. Uh, I suppose I will call on myself. So tonight was a 9.5 for me. Um, Blair and Leslie, the mind model jitsu that was going on there for a little bit was really fun to experience and watch and be part of. So thanks for that. It's nice to see like just the density, like you mentioned, just stringing things together. After going through all of this, that's what my experience is a lot of times of life nowadays is like there's just so many of them kind of happening all over the place. And so to hear that verbalized was really fun. Um, and yeah, just great conversation with everyone. And Mirabai, I wanted to jump in on what you were just saying as well. Like the nail on the floor thing that you said was just, perfect. And um, I mean, especially like Blair, Becky, Tim, Brent saw me in coach training and whatever. I that's been my experience, and it was and still is sometimes, but especially like a year ago or so, I couldn't get through a sentence without having to stop and be like, "Oh, I just dropped another nail on the floor. Hold on. Nope, hold on, I gotta pick, nope." Like just short circuiting because of that awareness and noticing, oh, wait a minute, that was a judgment. I'd like to rewind that. Let's evaluate. How could I say that in an evaluative way? Oh, that was better. Oh, wait, that was kind of judgmental. Let me take that back. Like, but that's if you're experiencing that, I'll just speak for myself. Like that is the brain rewiring itself. That's what you're doing, and that it's beautiful. That's the process. But if you just try to avoid having that discomfort and whatever experience, then you don't learn. So it's what you're experiencing is learning. And we have a few different phrases for that in this group. Failing fast, falling forward is one you'll hear sometimes. That's
This
what it is
this
in
is
a
Thomas
nutshell.
Edison in action.
Exactly. Uh, Failing gracefully, or maybe not. I don't know. Failing brilliantly. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Failing brilliantly. That's what we're all doing here. Okay. Tim, would you like to share your wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, this is the wrap up just made this a 10. I was gonna go with a 9, but the wrap up has been it's just tipped it over the edge. This is a 10 for me tonight. I love what you shared, Mirabai. Like that was an aha for me tonight. It's still a process for me. I still catch myself as Colin was just sharing. I still we're not perfect, and we still trip up. And I'm like, okay, hold on, rewind. And you go through this process of rewinding, and then finally it's just like, well, I said it, you know, move forward. You just learn not to judge, and you just attempt to keep moving forward, and it's part of that changing that the neural pathway. It's just all part of the process, and it's fun. And I remember the other highlight for me tonight was that video, Blair. I That brought back so many memories for me. Um, we saw Blair on stage in Las Vegas talking about the mind models, and if that wasn't mind blowing enough, these mind models and these different ways to think. And he went into a little piece called Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and he was talking about the darkness in us and our capability and the superhero in us, so to speak. And then he shared this video of, be different. And we were just walking out of there with this whole new awareness. And it was just like, it was so cool. And it brought all that back for me just watching that video. Um, and the other highlight for me tonight is Leslie, what you shared. The cool thing is, um, what I saw there was unconscious competence. The process is there, and you're just like, it's just, how do I put this? It's just catching it now. It just comes out of you, but the awareness of, oh my gosh, I'm doing this is, and one of the things that I found for myself is I went through that same process that you did. Like, I was going through it and I was doing it, but I wasn't catching it. And now I've gotten to the habit of catching it. My struggle now is not making it too complex for somebody who's never heard it before. So dialing it back to, that place of before unconscious competence, so to speak, if that makes sense. So there's evolutions to this, which is what's really cool. And it's not about being perfect. It's just about, each day attempting to become, learning the process and become just a little bit more effective.
Mhm.
And, and tripping on that is part of the process. Those moments when we are ineffective, it's part of changing it. Anyway, yeah, all great stuff.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. And I want to jump in again there a little bit, like what you just said about the unconscious competence. It's like if you've gotten this far in life, like just survived this long, then you are unconsciously competent with many, many, many things. And a lot of what mind models do is help you to become conscious of those things that you're doing effectively all the time, so that instead of them being random, they become identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. And yeah, it's the discovering the magic in yourself. And to tie it back to the very beginning, Blair, you mentioned the survey thing. That can be really helpful as a way to kickstart that. Even if you don't send a survey, just asking other people like, hey, what do I do that it seems like I just do naturally, that's effortless for me, but it's not effortless for other people? Or what are the things that I seem to do well that I don't notice? Or you can ask that question 50 different ways, but that can be the start of becoming aware of all the
what I was
things that
going to
you do
say.
brilliantly.
And essentially that process is what Blair was doing with you, Leslie. It
Exactly.
was, that phone a friend, so to speak, of, what am I doing? Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was live in the moment.
Can you please tell me what I'm doing so that I can know as well? That'd be really helpful. Thank you. Yeah. Becky, would you like to jump in on the wrap up tonight?
9.25 for me tonight. Um, Thank you, Leslie, for modeling for us and being willing to risk honestly so that we could help you identify what you're doing so effective so you can put language to it. I remember learning mind models and Blair, ooh, some days I was like, seriously, dude, just give me a bone. Because he would catch me and make me suffer That's what I was thinking in the moment. So uncomfortable asking me questions about what did you just do? I'm like, I don't freaking know what I just did. Tell me, what did I do? And he would work with me much like he did with you, Leslie, still does, to help me see what I can't see for myself. Because to Colin's point, we've all made it to a certain era in life successfully, we would might add. And a lot of those things that we just do intuitively is because we are unconsciously competent. And the magic happens when we can put language, right? Identify, name, and label so that we can build on those strengths and see where we can repeat and transfer in our life. So if we're super effective in business, how might that apply to maybe a relationship with ourselves or others that maybe isn't going super awesome? What tactics or what pieces might we transfer over there? Because that's what mind models allow us to do. They can be focused and directed in anything to help us become more effective, more confident, more self-confident, happier, more balanced, peaceful, calm human beings.
Thank you, Becky. Blair, would you like to wrap up the wrap up?
Sure. I really had fun tonight. It's a 10 for me tonight. I don't usually give out 10s, but I've had a great time tonight. I liked the video. The first video that was up there, building our future or your future. Recognize I had so many dreams when I was younger, and I've lived lots of them. Like I've made a lot of them happen, and some of them I haven't. And I've had situations in my life that I never dreamt I'd have to live through. My dad going into a coma and being in a coma for 14 years was not part of the grand plan that I thought, oh, that would be a handy thing to go through. No. Like lots of tragedy, and it's what you do with those things. Getting divorced at, 64 was not planning on that. But, 66, well, late 66, almost 67, getting diagnosed with cancer, going through 2.5, almost 3 years of medical crap, that, and getting 2 hip replacements due to radiation. All of these things I didn't envision, but I did perceive myself as being happy and feeling, I'd say, mostly successful, sometimes quite successful. And I've had moments where I've been very successful. And most of the time I'm happy. Sometimes I'm not. But I go, this is just a moment. This too shall pass. My sister's passing was one of those moments. She had an aneurysm, went into a coma, died 13 days later. I mean, I couldn't even say goodbye properly because it was during COVID. So there's good times, there's bad times. But being able to take charge of your state and going, you know what? And I lied last time or a time or two ago, a couple of weeks ago. I said I was only, 4 weeks or 6 weeks through. I'm not on my hip replacements. Hip replacements got done, like the last one got done on October 17th. And so I'm 3 months and a little bit, 3.5 months, and I was walking normally with the other one. So I go, okay, I'm very much on track. Not quite 100% there, but it was not like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever I thought it was last time. I made a mistake on that because it was another operation I had that was 4 weeks earlier. Because one was on November 17th, the other one was on October 17th. So anyway, no, sorry, December 17th and October 17th. And I screwed those up like I did this time. Anyway, bottom line here is life is good if we choose to look at it through a lens of what am I doing currently that I'm doing effectively that I can go viable, is it repeatable, and is it duplicatable? And do I generally enjoy what I'm going through? The answer is yes, I do. Could it improve? A lot? Yes, it could. It could also get a lot worse. And I recognize both, and I'm on the positive side of the scale. And building a path to keep things on a positive side of the scale and keeping on going is not the best I can do, but it's a very good thing that I can do. It's highly effective. Mirabai, thank you for coming into my life. Thank you for introducing me to Cody. Cody and I and Brian may be doing something together. He has never um, even suggested this to any of his other prospects or people that he's talked to. So we might be able to figure out something to have a conversation around. I'm going to be fairly vague with it, but it's an opportunity that had I not met you, I would not have had. So thank you for connecting us. It's great. And Tim, thank you for connecting. I believe it's Tim that you pulled it in at the dog park and started talking with Mirabai and whatnot. So thank you. And that's huge. So life happens and life is what you make of it. And the more that you see it as being effective, and the more effective things you can see, the more you can build on things that are effective. And it's just self-perpetuating. Success breeds success. Depression breeds depression. I choose success. I choose happiness. I choose a positive life. That's my choice. What's yours? Anyway, that's it for me tonight.
Thank you, Blair. Who's taking the outro tonight? Thanks, Becky.
All right, you guys, thank you for hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes. It flew by tonight. I don't know if it was just me, but it went by really fast. Right, just a couple announcements as we end. Blair's has an opportunity for you guys to get access to the Blair Dunkley Experience Insider Notes. It's an opportunity for you to get access to what we don't cover live because we always, and yes, there's a distorter there, we always prepare more because we want to be able to make sure that this is a rich experience for people on. And when we're on, we follow where the conversation goes so that we can have real life experiences like what Leslie was so generous to allow us to do with him tonight, where we all got to learn. He had an opportunity to experience what and how mind models can actually work in real time. So if you haven't got your hands on that, highly recommend that you invest in yourself with the BDE Insider Notes. You have access to episodes 318 to current. And again, we're on episode 379, so there's a lot there. It's $25 a month for $300 a year. Also, Blair has a couple books out on Amazon, Ultimate Mind Hacking and the Phobia Freedom Formula. And stay tuned because there's another one coming. We will let you know. Oh, those are two books. Blair's holding it up if you can see. And then he's got another one coming, so stay tuned. We'll give you more details as that happens. If you were out there on YouTube or you caught this on some sort of replay and you want to be with us live, make sure you go to rewiringthemind.com/weekly webinar. You can join us here. You can be on, ask questions in real time. We'd love to have you. Again, we love having new people. And then there's a reminder, there's a tentative mind model coach training coming up March 17th through 20th and March 24th through 27th. So if that's something that you're interested in, then you can shoot Blair an email at blair@rewiringthemind.com. And again, we look forward to joining us next
I
week.
am also in conversation with both Mirabai and Jessica, and now possibly with Cody to potentially put on an Igniting the Bind conversation.
Okay. All right, you guys. So
That's
stay
new.
tuned. We have two upcoming opportunities. So for some incredible trainings again. These go deeper than what we cover on the Blair Dunkley experience. And again, if you want to use it as a focus for your business or your personal growth, highly recommend that you do so. More details, Blair at rewiringthemind.com. And again, we're here every single Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 Eastern, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night, wherever you're tuning in from. And